actually, prior to the Mike Reeber handle, I was Northeastern bow hunter. I grew up in Connecticut and New York. I mean, I was, kind of brought up in a family of hunters and trappers and fishermen, and located here about 8 years ago, and I couldn't be happier being in a state that is so hunting and fishing friendly. You go on a hunt, and your guide comes in, and it's 7 o'clock at night, and you got to skin a deer that you just got, and no one wants to eat at 10 o'clock.
No.
And so I really wanted to target that and fix that and say, I will come in and I'll cook. And I mean, I love to guide, but at the same time, let me cook. Y'all guide, and then when you're ready, food's ready, and nobody has to eat at 10 o'clock. And so that was kind of where Roaming Fire started.
Tejas. Tejas Hunt Club Podcast is the podcast for you and you and you and you.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 10 of the Tejas Hunt Club Podcast. I'm Brandon McDowell, and today we're going to be sitting down with Mike Reeber, who's a chef, an outdoorsman, and, new fact, not a native Texan. On this episode with Mike, we're going to talk about how he grew up hunting in the Northeast, and then also how he got to Texas. And then we're going to talk about the inspiration behind Roaming Fire Food. This is a real cool episode. It was awesome to finally get some time to sit down and talk to him. So thanks for listening to the podcast as always. We really appreciate it. If you aren't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do. Follow us on Instagram. And then also, if you're on Facebook, check out the Tejas Hunt Club group. When this podcast drops, we're going to be getting ready to go to TAC this week. We're going to be shooting on Friday at 8 o'clock in the morning. This podcast is going to go out on Wednesday. So if you're going to be at TAC, shoot us a DM. Now, let's jump into the podcast. Thanks for listening, guys. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Tejas Hunt Club Podcast. I'm Brandon McDowell, and today I'm sitting down with Mr. Mike Reeber. He's a chef, he's an author, he's a hunter, and this is the first conversation that we've had other than commenting on each other's photos. But I'm excited about this episode. I'm excited to hear his story, how he got in the outdoors, how he decided that cooking was something that he wanted to make such a big part of his life, and then how he incorporates hunting and cooking together and how he's come along. So I'm going to give it over to him and let him introduce himself and tell us a little bit about Mike.
Well, thanks for having me on the podcast, Brandon. Mike Reeber, chef owner of Roaming Fire. You might see it on Instagram at Roaming Fire Food. And I also guide for a couple ranches down in South Texas too. So if you see me on Instagram and it's not Roaming Fire, it's probably at Mike Reeber. So that's where you and I first met, was it was on Instagram, going back and forth about some Texas hunting photos and things like that. And good to talk to you.
Yes, sir. You too, man, for sure. Like I said, your photography is awesome. And of course, like you said, you get to guide on some places and get to see some pretty cool animals. And I know I saw your post from the other day. You already got shed season going on for you. Finding some pretty good ones, I saw.
Couple so far. A couple.
Yeah. So how did you get into the outdoors, man? Is it like a family thing, or are you some people are first generation, or did you have an uncle, or how'd you get in the outdoors?
Yeah, not first generation. So I grew up, actually, prior to the Mike Reeber handle, I was Northeastern bow hunter. And that was a website that I started back up when I was living in the Northeast. I grew up in Connecticut and New York, hunting both states. And so, yeah, I mean, I was, kind of brought up in a family of hunters and trappers and fishermen, and we hunted a lot, and mainly deer and turkey, sometimes the occasional coyote, if you were, brave enough to get out there in the winter. Yeah. When it was snowing and nasty out. But I grew up around a family of hunters and fishermen in New York, and met my wife. My wife is actually a native Texan, just from outside of Houston. And so we relocated here about 8 years ago, and I couldn't be happier being in a state that is so hunting and fishing friendly. So it's funny because I think living in the Northeast, a lot of people don't realize just how many outdoor hunting and fishing opportunities there are. And then when I came down here, so many people were like, wait, you're really not from here? You hunt all the time and you're not from here?
Yeah.
So, yes, no, to set the record straight, I'm not an original native Texan, but I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. I feel like I was kind of questioning that myself, just because like I saw your page. I've followed you for a while, and like you seem like you're from Texas. So
well, and I never sounded like I was from New York. So that was the other.
No, you didn't. That wasn't a giveaway either. But I knew there was something like obviously different. That you were a transplant, I guess, if you will.
Sure.
But like I said, you filled the shoes quite nicely. Like it is different hearing a perspective, I guess you say, from the Northeast, and I've heard from other podcasts from some other people that are from that area that it really is a sleeper state. For us down here in Texas, the first thing you think of when you hear New York is Manhattan or like the city.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
little to be known, it's a lot of area of New York is very rural.
Well, and what a lot of people don't even realize is that there's so many hunting opportunities just outside the city. So there are a couple of counties just north of Manhattan that are excellent bow hunting zones only. I mean, and it's tight, right? Like you're looking at someone's house over here and you're looking at someone's pool over there, but there are some giant deer. So if you can secure land, I mean, and I'm talking like if you can get on 5 acres, that's a lot, right? I mean, it's a whole different way of hunting. But it's an incredible state to hunt.
That's pretty cool. Like we went on a dove hunt a couple years ago in Georgia, and we met some people from New York, and they were talking about it. Like how they hunt all the time, and they hunt turkeys and they hunt dove and duck hunt a lot. Also, like they heard duck hunting around the city and everything's pretty good. So yeah, that's pretty cool, man. And like I know Connecticut has bear hunting. I've heard of that before.
New Jersey is a great bear hunting state too. You got, I mean, like the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. I mean, there's a lot of hunting that happens there. And I think, so often people just think, oh, well, they're just like huge metropolitan areas and there's no hunting and this and that. I mean, northern New York State and western New York State, parts of northern Connecticut, northwestern Connecticut, and into New Jersey are super rural. And people just don't get that. I mean, especially in New York. The further you go north in New York, I mean, it's real rural, and great hunting. Like a lot of public land, a lot of state property, a lot of agriculture, corn growing, things like that. And so it's a whitetail sleeper state for sure.
Well, we might have to, release this episode. Might have to make a trip to New York.
But an out-of-state tag.
Yeah, there you go. Is it pretty good, like for out-of-state hunters, or do you know? Well, do you go back any?
I haven't been back hunting since I left, and it drives me nuts every year because I still have a lot of friends and family that live there, and I want to go back and I want to do that. I always want to dedicate like the right week to going back.
Yeah.
I never get around to it, and it's on my list of places to go back and hunt pretty hard. It's just a great state. I don't really think there are any draws. It's not like a Western state for an elk tag or anything like that. I mean, there are certain counties where you'll have to put in for like a doe permit or a doe tag. But otherwise, I mean, they'll give you an over-the-counter buck tag. They'll give you an over-the-counter buck and a buck and doe, or a buck or doe for a bow. And so there's a lot of hunting that you could do there with an out-of-state.
Kind of similar to like out-of-staters coming to Texas. Like you just get tags when you get your license.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was pretty easy. I've been like to Nebraska to hunt turkeys before, and that one was easy to get tags or whatever. And I mean, pretty easy to get your second one too if you had the chance. So
that's if you're looking for like an Eastern gobbler, New York State, that's the place.
Yeah. I got to shoot a Eastern in Nebraska when I went on that trip. So
nice.
I still want to shoot another one, obviously, but like I got that one from my first one, so that was pretty cool. I got that in a hybrid. But yeah, so like growing up there, did you? Of course, I guess did you watch like hunting TV and stuff like that?
Oh,
like what was your
Yeah.
What was your perception of Texas, or like, what was it? Was it like, I want to move there one day as soon as you saw it, or, like, was it in the plan, or was it just, happenstance that you met your wife?
No, well, I love the shows that always feature Texas, just because the deer are just so much different looking, right? I mean, we had big body deer up north, but not a rack like down here. And, when you see them step out on the senderos and things like that, I mean, they're impressive looking,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you don't even have to be a hunter, and it's impressive to watch them step out. So I was always, infatuated with hunting Texas, and I've always wanted to come down here. And then when I met my wife, I came down and hunted down in Freer with my father-in-law for like a long weekend. A friend of a friend invited him and got me on this property, and it was like, I didn't even have to pick up a rifle. I was just happy to sit there and look around. I mean, it was incredible. And it's just because it's so different than when I grew up hunting. It's just, I was used to sitting at the base of a tree or sitting in a tree stand, and we might not see any deer. And it wasn't because you weren't in a good spot. It just there was so much more land to cover, and what they were feeding on was totally different. And so to have the ability to sit in a blind here, and watch just the woods come to life in the morning and all these deer step out, it's crazy. So then when we decided to move here, I was like, all right, this is awesome. I just got to find a place to hunt. And so, I've loved traveling around and seeing. I think one of the cool things about Texas that a lot of people don't know, especially on a lot of shows, it's just so different, depending on where you are.
Yes.
A lot of shows, they really show South Texas, but there's great hunting up north, and there's great hunting out east, like, the Crockett National Park or a state park out there. And, I mean, there's a lot of hunting to be done here. So
there is.
I love living here.
Yeah, if you ask anybody, I love being from Texas. I love everything about it. And I'll gladly tell anybody when I'm in another state that I am from Texas, especially growing up in Goliad with its history and stuff that it has. But it is a different place. And when we go different places, I try to explain that to people, that you're not just going to come, like, not everywhere is South Texas. Not everywhere is that golden triangle with all those big deer in it. There's different places in it, and you can hunt them different as well. It's not all just, sitting in a blind all the time. It can be different. You can do spot and stalk. You can get in tree stands. It's just whatever the land that you're hunting lends to you to do. I mean, it would be cool to sit and hang tree stands, in South Texas, but you're not going to find a tree to hang a tree stand in.
And if you find one that it's like all crooked.
It's not going to be very good for you, or like help you hunt, Right. It's not going to be an advantage that you're going to gain. But, and then feeding feeders or deer corn and senderos, like, if you don't, you're not going to see those deer. They're going to stay bedded up in that stuff that you don't want to walk in.
Yep. You know it. I mean, and you don't want to go in after them.
There's
no sneaking in.
That stuff. Yeah. People always say, like, why do y'all wear long sleeves? Like, isn't it hot? I'm like, yeah, it is. But you walk through there one time with a t-shirt on or something like that, you'll never do it again.
Nope.
Never do it again. But that's cool, man. Like I said, it was cool to learn that, you're from the Northeast and moved to Texas and everything. And you said it was 8 years ago, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Just about.
So where are you at now? Like, what area are you in?
Currently I'm west of Austin.
Okay. Yep. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that's an awesome area too, the hill country and everything. So
there's a lot of deer here.
Once again, another place that some people might know that's in Texas, but a lot of people don't know that it's in Texas.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, I love hunting the hill country. I mean, it's so different than South Texas. I mean, like, sitting in a huge, like, just hill of cedars is really cool. And I mean, it's a different experience, and there's a lot of good looking bucks.
Yeah.
And there's just, from a pure number perspective, there's just so many deer. That was the other thing. The first time that I hunted the hill country, it was like, whoa, this is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and, I don't care what size they are. They're all just walking through.
Yep. Exactly. Like you said, and from the hill country to South Texas is not a large distance in between them, but they're so totally different places.
Different world.
And you hunt, and like you said, you hunt them different also, and you get to sit in different environments and still see the same animals.
Yep.
Like you said, they're a little bit, the size difference is a little bit, varies more to the smaller ones in the hill country, but that's because there's so many of them. You're going to see, way more deer in one sitting than you are, obviously probably in East Texas for sure. But like even some places in South Texas.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's funny too. It's a whole different way to hunt too. I mean, just the topography and the landscape and all those cedars. The first time that I started hunting, it was just outside New Braunfels. And, this is a whole different area that I wasn't used to. And I had nothing other than sitting on the ground. I had no way to get into a tree. And there was good cover with these cedars. And I actually found a great company. He's based in Austin. And he builds these ladder stands that are only, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 feet off the ground. And it's just a small platform with a bar around it so you can put burlap around it and a swivel seat. But it's like perfect, handmade, built here in Texas. And it's like, it fits against these cedar trees. And I had the whole cedar as a backdrop.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, I need like 5 of these because that was the way to hunt down there.
Yep. Well, that's cool to learn, man. So like how, when did the food thing come in for you? Like, you always been like a person that cooks, or was that something you enjoyed your whole life?
Yeah, I've always loved to cook. Both my parents were big cooks, still are big cooks. My dad was a New York City fireman. He's retired now, and growing up in a firehouse, there's a lot of cooks there. And you're cooking for a lot of groups, right? And same thing on my mother's side. My mother's Italian, so I got the Italian cooking thing going on there. So there's a lot of cooking threads going through these veins. But after college, I started cooking a lot just for friends and family and kind of on the side. And then it just kind of got to the point where I really wanted to cook more for groups at hunting ranches, just because I noticed that let me back up. You go on a hunt and your guide comes in and it's 7:00 at night and you got to skin a deer that you just got, and no one wants to eat at 10:00.
No.
And so, I really wanted to target that and fix that and say, I will come in and I'll cook. And I love to guide, but at the same time, let me cook. Y'all guide, and then when you're ready, food's ready, and nobody has to eat at 10:00. And so that was kind of where Roaming Fire started. And so I've for the last year went full time with Roaming Fire, live fire catering business. So very South American style cooking, a lot of barbecue. And different than, barbecue, when you hear it in Texas, there's no briskets and ribs and things like that. It's all open fire, which allows us to do just a ton of different types of cuisine and things like that. But it's great for these ranches. Last year, we put about 5,000 miles on that rig going across the state. Everywhere from Matagorda to Rock Springs. Yeah. It was so much fun. And I just love being around and being at these camps. You meet such great people and you're sharing such great times. Yeah. And I think being able to kind of elevate the food at these ranches and take something off their plate that they don't need to do in addition to guiding and hunting is pretty rewarding for me.
For sure, man. Like that's a great idea. I like hunting ourselves. It's like before we even leave, when we're going to hunt stuff, it's like, okay, what are we packing to eat? And make sure that we're packing something. Like, I could live off tamales and boudin at hunt camp every day. Like, if you'd ask me, Brandon, what are you going to pack? It's tamales and boudin, and I'll be all right. Maybe even throw in some fresh sausage or some smoked sausage or something like that. Maybe some tortillas or something, and I'm good. That's all I really need, because I'd rather be hunting and worried about that than coming in and having to, chop up vegetables and
Yeah.
saute this. Now, don't get me wrong. I love doing that if we're at home or for that, that's the plan. But
Right.
if I'm hunting, I want to be hunting and I want to spend that time doing
Well,
it.
and it's funny because years ago, I fondly remember I used to hunt with my dad and my uncle a lot. And my dad would joke sometimes, like, I'm not going to hunt this afternoon. I'll be the camp chef.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, well, why don't you hunt? Come on, why don't you go hunt? And it wasn't until recently it was like, yeah, I mean, that was really nice to come in and then eat at a reasonable hour and have this awesome meal versus everybody comes in and then you're exhausted, and by the way, if you're lucky enough to get a deer, like what's going to come first? Are we going to eat first or is someone going to deal with it?
Yeah, we're going to skin first. And most of the time it's hot here during deer season or if you're hunting in the spring. So you got to go skin first and get that, meat on ice and everything. So that puts your dinner or whatever later. Right. And then of course you got to spend, at least 20 minutes, cleaning all the blood and stuff off your hands and cleaning everything up. And then you get to make another mess to clean up after you're done eating.
Right.
Yeah.
So, for me, I get to share hunting camps with great people. I get to cook for awesome people and take that kind of off their hands and off their list of things to do. And it's been working great. And I love doing it.
That's pretty cool. So like you said, you guide too. So I guess you found that need while you were guiding and you were just choosing like to stay in camp and stuff. Is that right? Yeah.
I mean, I would guide for friends and, a couple buddies that have outfitting businesses and ranches and just kind of do it on the side. And I found myself doing the guiding and then being like, well, I'll cook.
Yeah.
Which of course is like, double the fun.
Yeah.
Right. But, if you can actually go with someone that's dedicated to one or the other, it makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah. For sure. So like, what's some of your favorite things to cook, either for like your Roman fire, your business, or just personally at home? Like if you were to plan out a week of dinners, that you prefer.
Well, I mean, so with roaming fire, I always try to do, especially for out-of-state hunters, I try to give them a taste of Texas. So whether that's wild boar, nilgai, I don't know, some more exotic stuff like an axis, try to incorporate something like that on the menu just because it's actually so readily available down here and people just don't even realize it. You can go to Broken Arrow Meats. They're out in Fredericksburg, past Fredericksburg, out that way.
Yep.
And they are all USDA, cleared to harvest animals and to process them and sell them. And it's phenomenal stuff. I mean, it's just really great. And a lot of restaurants order from them. So I try to incorporate a little bit of that. Of course, a big thing that a lot of people are into, including myself, are really working locally with ranchers and farmers. And so Dean and Peeler out of South Texas, I work with them a lot for beef. They have probably the best beef that I've ever had in this state. It's incredible quality. And so I'm always trying different cuts and just trying to do things that are a little bit different. I'm kind of on a picanha kick lately. So, like the Brazilian steakhouse. Got the big skewers and all that fun stuff. But, just doing things that are a little bit different. If you look on Roaming Fire on Instagram, there's a lot of hanging tomahawk steaks that I do too. So,
I've seen those.
Yeah, that side's kind of like a jungle gym on the open fire rig, so we have fun with that. But I always joke, if Fred Flintstone would cook and he would like this, then we're probably doing something right. So
that's funny. That's a good way to live by.
Things hanging from meat hooks and chains and all that good stuff.
That's cool, man. That's cool. But yeah, like I said, I followed your page, Mike Reeber, and then I was started following Roman Fire when you started that, and I was like, this is awesome. Like, this is a good way to cook. I mean, the photos you take, the angles you get, that appeals to me too. Like my photography side, doing that, but like that's the way you've launched that and the way you've carried through it. It's cool to see. Like I like it a lot.
And I'm learning as we go too with a lot of food photography. It's so hard to cook and actually get in the works shots, right? Like
Yeah.
this roaring fire and me like working on something over there. Usually because I'm just by myself doing that.
Yeah.
Food photography is one thing, right? Like, okay, we have a plate of food. I could do that. But in the moment, it's really cool, but it's hard to get that shot.
Just so happens, I know a guy that might be able to help you out with that.
See?
Just so happens. Yeah. Yeah. The food stuff's pretty cool. I've gotten to film for some other people, Chef Jean Paul from Meat Eater, and like do stuff with him. So yeah, like that's a lot of fun. And of course, like people don't know it, like, you get to eat the food too after you cook it.
There you go. That's right.
Yeah. The perks of the job, as they say. That's cool. Well, man, I guess when you got to Texas and you saw, like, were you aware of the whole exotic, like you using exotic meats and stuff? Were you aware of the exotic?
Not too much. I think if I was used to anything or aware of anything, it was kind of like this, like, what is a high fence ranch? That's all I heard.
Yeah.
Being from up north, right? And you have this weird thought in your head that there's just like a bunch of zoos around where people hunt. Yeah. And I feel like I tell everybody that's not from here, like, don't judge a book without reading it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not
same
bad.
Thing, man.
It's not bad.
No, I mean, I like I said, through the photography and stuff, like I've got to go on some pretty nice places, high fence and low fence, and there's some high fence places that are smaller.
Yep,
they are.
Yep.
And be honest with it, but for myself, I wouldn't do that hunt. But for other people that, live in the city, and I got to talk about this with Matthew Lusack from Dancing Dog Ranch. I'm like, the guy that has a full-time job in the city and lives there, and he goes to work every day, and he wants to hunt and wants to experience that. And the best way for him to do that at that time, time constraint, family stuff, everything else, is for him to still go buy a hunting license, still go buy camo and a rifle or a bow and ammo and, everything that he needs to go on this hunt. And he chooses to go in a high fence, and maybe smaller or whatever.
Yep.
And he chooses to go on that hunt, and he has the time of his life,
all that matters.
That's perfectly fine.
Yep.
And as long as he's doing legal, what he needs to do, he's putting money back into conservation where we all know it goes and where we all know it needs to go.
Yep.
And he's going to go back and he's going to tell people that probably don't hunt at all his experience. And then he's going to be, a fringe hunter, I guess you could say, because he's not doing it, on a consistent basis all the time. But if he had a good experience, he's a voice to talk to people, that may not experience that at all.
I met someone last season, came out for a hunt at a ranch that I was cooking for, had never hunted before, and got invited by a couple of friends to go out, had the time of his life, shot a scimitar, an awesome scimitar, and was like instantly hooked, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy. I had such a blast, and the spotting and stalking and, just learning about, what this is all about versus what you think it's all about by, some shows and reading things online. I mean, as a first time hunter, someone, he wasn't walking around in camo and the best gun and all this stuff. And he was having the time of his life. And that's all that it's about. And it just drives me nuts to see people, bash other hunters online. Like, hunters are bashing hunters, and it's just ridiculous. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
is
it legal? Are they happy? That's it.
Yeah.
That's all it should be.
How is that affecting you in any way? If anything, it's kind of, helping you.
Right.
Because, that's another, like you said, another person that's on your same team. Just because they don't do it the way that you do it exactly to a T shouldn't matter.
Right. And guess what? Numbers of hunters are dwindling year after year after year. So having new people, join, the sport and this hunting heritage that, especially in this state, a lot of people hold so close.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing.
It is. And I try to tell people at all, if you have a bad view of hunting behind a high fence, try it. You can find places that are larger, 3,500 acres. If you think 3,500 acres under a high, I'd even say 1,200 acres under a high fence, and you think it's like just a catching fish out of a barrel, try it.
Nope. I can tell you first time it's not.
Give it a shot. Just try it, because
I think they become smarter.
It's a lot harder than what you think it is. It is hunting.
Yeah.
It is hunting.
100%.
It's not like you just guaranteed you're going to go out there and you know you're going to find the animal that you're trying to find.
Right. No, I mean, and I think that prior to moving here, that's was my biggest misconception of Texas hunting was like, oh, wow, this is just sitting over a pile of corn and there's all these deer that come out because they must let them out of some kind of a cage.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not it.
No. And I also too, I mean, like up until recently, especially like with the exotic stuff, most of it was, large whitetails.
Yeah.
That was it. That was shown on TV. And the axis kind of changed that a little bit, and then now everybody wants to hunt aoudad, which is cool, but like I want to hunt aoudad too. So
me too. Yeah.
And then now the newest things kind of catching on and people are seeing is nilgai, and they're figuring out about that. So there's a lot of opportunities here for a lot of different animals, different size animals as well. And I think people are starting to learn that. I mean, I really don't see how Texas is. I mean, I know that there's a large industry here, but I don't see how it's not put on a larger scale, as if going to a trip to Montana or I'm going to Idaho or Colorado. Like that should be coming to hunt in Texas should be on that same level.
I agree. Yeah, especially when you think about the amount of free-ranging animals across the state as well. You have aoudad, you have elk, you have nilgai, and there are all sorts of things that you can hunt that are not on a ranch.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to a friend last week about elk hunting in Texas. A lot of people don't even realize that those opportunities are here.
Yeah. Yep. That's one animal that's I could shoot the raggediest raghorn that ever walked this earth. If it was from Texas, it would be the best elk that I've ever had. I could go shoot, whatever, someplace in Utah where they have 400-inch bulls, and that raghorn from Texas will mean so much more to me than that one. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I want to go shoot the 400-inch Utah, but that raghorn will probably hang on the wall a little bit higher than that one. But
I'm right there with you. I mean, we actually have to probably set a hunt up for West Texas elk before it catches on for everybody else.
Yeah. I've been seeing some good ones. Like I follow Stephen West, Desert Safaris, and they do some stuff, some elk hunting out there, and he's killed some pretty big bulls. So I've been seeing him. I actually got to see, what was it? Probably 3 or 4 years ago, Meagan, my fiance, and I, we were going turkey hunting in between Del Rio, Rock Springs area. And it's a low fence place. And we were going out to turkey hunt, and you're in the range, you're going out in the morning, you're still kind of trying to wake up, like driving. And there's cows on this place, and I'm, going along, and I'm like, oh, there's a cow on the road. And I'm like, oh, it'll move, once I get closer. And then I put my head down. I'm driving a little bit, and I pick my head back up, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, it's not moving. And then finally it picks its head up, and it's a cow elk standing in the middle of the road.
Different kind of cow.
Like, yeah. And I'm trying to, like, Megan's sleeping, trying to wake up. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, that's, and then it just jumps off into the bush. I'm like, holy cow. That was a cow elk on this low fence place, free range, like crazy. Like, never would have guessed that I would see that. Like, we didn't even kill a turkey that morning, but my whole day, my whole trip was made that I saw a free range and elk in Texas. Like, I mean, not that many people get to see that.
In Terlingua in Big Bend last year, just hanging out for the week with friends, their black bear ran in front of my truck in Big Bend. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy close.
That's cool. I want to see one of those. I like bears a lot, and then being, seeing the stuff lately about them coming back in Big Bend. That's awesome.
Yeah.
coming over from Mexico or New Mexico and stuff back into Texas where they've been. I mean, yeah, we've had bears everywhere. I mean, every state around us has bears. How does Texas not? You know,
right?
And Oklahoma has some pretty big ones too, and Arkansas as well. So, I mean, there's no way that they're not crossing borders and being on those in those coming into Texas and like establishing like breeding populations and stuff. Who knows? By the time we're old, we might have a Texas bear season.
Love to see it. I mean, it would just be cool to see. I mean, and even if you didn't hunt them, it'd just be cool to see the population come back.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that's an incredible part of conservation on all fronts.
Yep. And I mean, if they're coming back, and no telling what other animals are also, coming back as well. Like we talked about the aoudad and stuff, but I mean, we have bighorn sheep in Texas. Yep. I mean, a lot of that area that those aoudad are in is the same area as a bighorn, and they kind of have a little bit of a conflict there. But it'd be cool to see more bighorns in that area as well. And I know they've been relocating and stuff a lot in the Trans-Pecos area, that same Big Bend area, and bringing in new rams and ewes and stuff, so kind of repopulate that. So that's cool to see too.
Yeah, we actually saw a really nice aoudad out in Big Bend. We were hiking this kind of dry riverbed back in there, and the rock slide happened. Kind of maybe 100 yards out, and you could obviously hear it before you could see it.
Yeah,
you look up, and there's an aoudad, good ram walking along that ridge. It's like, oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, being able to see him just on a hike or something like that.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to, see bighorns like that too. One day.
That'd be awesome.
One day. Yeah.
One day.
Yeah, hopefully so. So, man, I see quite a bit of animals there behind you. Big old axis, and that's the Addicts and Gims buck.
Addicts, scimitar.
Yeah, and then a couple. So, what was the first animal I mean, probably whitetail. I don't remember you saying whitetail, but like, what was your intro into the exotic game, and what's your favorite one?
Intro to exotics, an Addicts was probably, trying to think. I think Addicts was really like my first intro to exotics, and then I shot that scimitar with my bow a few years ago. Nice. During the summer. It was like 103 degrees. And I think it was either July or August. It was one of those. It was probably like right between. And I had a great encounter with them. And I love all the exotic species. I mean, the meat is so great, and they're just larger usually. And so you just get so much more. It's awesome to keep in the freezer.
Oh yeah, I haven't gotten to shoot anything yet as far as the exotics goes, but I got to be with a lot of people, film stuff when people are hunting exotics. And Axis is probably my favorite, just because when most people don't know the vocalization and then barking and stuff, like
super
that's
cool
to hear.
Oh yeah.
Any animal that makes a noise and like kind of talks to you. I mean, and I've seen some videos where people like have Axis calls and stuff. I haven't personally tried it. I mean, it'd be interesting to do. But like any kind of animal you can, like vocalize with and communicate with and use that as a tactic to, to hunt them is awesome. Like I enjoyed it a lot.
It's funny too, because so I've tried the Axis call. I think it's called the Easy Axis, because I think there's one company that makes it, right. And it's great. And it sounds just like them. They have videos of them like literally calling them in.
Yeah. I've seen the videos.
It's really neat. I mean, that's one way to hunt them. The other thing that I figured out last year, and this is so weird, but up north, I used to hang, scent wicks and scent drippers all the time. Yep. Scrape drips. And down here, I just kind of put it to the side, and I never broke out that stuff. And last year, I broke it back out. I was really trying some different things and trying to get some whitetails to respond, which they did.
Yeah.
But what's really funny is that what responded first were the Axis, because they were like up in these trees. I have trail cam photos of them in the tree trying to get the scent wick.
Huh.
So
that's really
if you're going after an Axis, give the old scent wick a shot. I mean, it was unreal to see the response from them.
Yeah, it was just like a curious thing. Like they were just trying to figure out what it is. It's interesting seeing like different tactics on animals that probably don't get that tactic used on them and how they.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think a lot of people really hang a lot of scent wicks either down here. And the moment I put 3 or 4 scent wicks out in different spots, literally every camera lit up with an axis.
Huh. That's pretty cool. I have to try that one time. That. Like I said, Axis and Audad are really high on my list on my next hunts.
Yeah, the Audad are cool.
Yeah, but that Axis, like you said, that Axis with a bow is real high on the list. I've been
trying to do that myself.
Yeah. So are you more like most of your hunts and stuff? Are you hunt more archery, or you hunt more rifle, or kind of a mix of the two?
I mix it up. I grew up obviously around a lot of guns, and we hunted a lot up north with shotguns and, with slugs, and then some zones went to rifle, and then I got into bow hunting a lot. But, I've really transitioned kind of back to muzzle loading, and I love muzzle loading. So I've put down my bow and I put down my rifle the last couple of years, and it's been fun to get back and kind of do a little bit more primitive stuff with the muzzle loaders.
Yeah, that's what we're kind of talking about, and why I wanted to get you on the podcast too, to kind of talk about that, because I have zero experience in muzzle loaders. They seem cool. I want to try them. I know that you have some different, especially out west, going out there, you have some different opportunities and different seasons you can apply for muzzle loader. I know now there's muzzle loaders that people are shooting out to 500 and 600 yards.
Oh yeah.
The technology has advanced a lot, but also there's still, like you said, that kind of more primitive side of it that's still available for you to do. So you can kind of pick and choose where you want to be on that spectrum, but you can still all enjoy muzzle loaders in different ways too. So using muzzle loaders is something you've done as a kid growing up, or is that something you picked up when you were older?
Yeah, I got into muzzle loading. I think I was in college, and my dad actually was given a muzzle loader as a gift. And it was an inline muzzle loader, and it came with a bunch of different parts to assemble. It wasn't like a build your own kit, but it required, had the different breech plug and things like that on it. So for me, I'll never forget, I found it in a closet, and I said, oh, I'm going to try to put this thing together and figure it out. And I had no idea what I was doing. So, just looking through the instruction manual, which I'm terrible at with most things. 100% guilty. But I went to a gunsmith that was probably like an hour away, and I went to get bullets because I had no bullets and I had no powder. And it turns out that the guy was a huge muzzle loading guy too. So we were standing there talking about this and that. We put a scope on it. I ended up shooting my first whitetail buck with it that year, which was awesome. And then from there, I just kind of got into it a little bit more, because up north, it kind of goes like bow season's in October, then gun season. And then if you want to extend your season, you're going to hunt with a muzzleloader for like a week.
Huh.
And so that was the draw to it then. Then, I was using a muzzleloader for years. And then afterwards, when I moved here, I went on a mule deer hunt in Colorado a couple of years ago. And it was the easier way to get a tag, right? So it's like, I love bow hunting. I'm a huge bow hunter, but I don't shoot my bow nearly as much as I used to. And I'm not going to go to Colorado and pretend that I could hit something at 60 and 70 yards. Like, it was not. Yeah. It's not me. And so I was looking up the muzzleloading zones and draw statistics and all those things, and realized that, well, I can get a pretty good tag with a muzzleloader. Now, it's a whole different beast, right? So the Northeast, you could hunt, pelletized powder. You can hunt with, a different type of bullet, with a scope, all that good stuff. So, I mean, basically, you could make a rifle with a muzzleloader, as far as the internal components. Colorado, for example, it's got to be loose powder. It's got to be a certain type of projectile, no sight, or no scope rather. So it's a whole different thing. And I actually really, I'm a fan of that, because I think it brings it backwards a little bit to let's not modernize this to a place where it's basically just the same gun season with a different type of gun.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, yeah, I mean, and then recently got into the traditional side of muzzleloading, which I'm addicted to. And so the like percussion cap, build your own kit. Love that. It's super cool. And you feel like you're back in time.
Yeah, definitely back in time. Like when you talk about that, like I said, grew up in Goliad. They always had like the reenactments and stuff at the mission and Presidio La Bahia, and like that's what that reminds me of, because they always had that stuff in the cannon and everything. But obviously, you're not hunting with a cannon. But just like you said, taking that kind of step back in time and experiencing hunting, as people before us did. Kind of limiting yourself to do that. That's I always say, like, I see different people. I've met different hunters, and I've met people that are I say like the newbie hunter that just wants to shoot a doe or something like that, and then you kind of graduate, and then you kind of get to like you want to hunt everything, you want to shoot everything,
right?
And then you go through that phase, and then you get to the phase where like I want to hunt this buck or like this specific animal, and then as you grow and as you get older, you just kind of like either choose different things as your standard or what you're going for. Because I mean, like you see guys shoot 200-inch whitetails, like, well, if you're not going to shoot a 200-inch whitetail every single time, but if you find that 160 that's like 6 or 7 years old and you've been watching them for 3 years, that's going to give you that same feeling. Even a 145 or whatever score you want to put on it, it's just either limiting yourself or you're changing your goals in that journey through hunting, which I think there's not many other like things that kind of evolve that way.
Yeah, well said. It's interesting too, because to me, muzzleloading and bow hunting are similar in certain aspects, right? Like muzzleloading, you're really going to get one shot, and that's it. I mean, and yes, there are speed reloaders and all sorts of fun gadgets that you could buy to help you reload quicker. It's hard to get a second shot, really hard. With a bow, same thing, right? Like you might get one shot and then you're reloading that, right? And although a bow is much quieter than a muzzleloader, there's a lot of principles that are kind of related. And I think that's what drew me to it initially, was it's a different way to hunt, and it actually it slows me down too. When I walk through the woods with a traditional muzzleloader and it's raining or something like that, like you can't get anything wet. It won't fire. You can't just willy-nilly walk through and I mean, you think about it, like when you're walking with your rifle, you got scope cover, you got this cover, everything's fine. It's going to go off, right? When that firing pin hits that cartridge, it's going off. Yeah. It's not always the case with the muzzleloader.
When you're doing a muzzleloader, didn't even. Although, like, I know, like, obviously, wet powder is not a good thing, but you don't, unless you're doing it and going through that, you don't think about that. It's right. Like, oh, my bullets are fine. They're in the box.
Well, and here's the other thing. Like, it might not even be. It could be something as simple as the barrel had oil on it, and now the powder's wet. So it might be a sunny day, but yet that barrel had something in it. Maybe you forgot to really get it good and dry when you were cleaning it. Something as simple as that will cause it not to fire.
Wow. Yeah, like you said, you're definitely.
And I've had it happen. And it's fortunately it happened at the range. It did not happen with an animal. But I like that because it adds that bit of challenge back into it.
It does, and it, like you said, it doesn't get. I feel like if you don't, you can just breeze through some of the process. And like you said, that kind of slows you down and makes you think and do different things.
Well, before I went to Colorado, I was using those pellets, the pelletized powder, which is nice because it comes in 50 grain increments, right? So you just drop them in, you add them up, and you figure out what you need, for your muzzleloader. Yeah. When I went to Colorado, you couldn't use those, so it forced me to get used to using loose powder, which is totally different. And I'm not much of a reloader myself. I'd love to get into it, but I just haven't had the time. But it's neat because you're like, here we are pouring this stuff together and figuring out how much I need, and kind of different load development from there and things like that. And it's addicting.
Oh yeah. I mean, I haven't gotten that far, but like the archery thing, I've only been shooting a bow for 2.5 years now, 3 years, something like that. So not that long at all, but I love it. I love it for the fact because I grew up shooting shotguns and stuff like that. But I can walk outside right now, obviously when the sun's still up. Thank you for the time change. There's still time to do things in the afternoon, but I can go outside and I can shoot my bow. As before, like I can't walk outside and shoot my pistols. I can't walk outside and shoot my rifle or my shotgun or anything like that, but I can walk outside and shoot my bow. I mean, heck, some people they have houses big enough they still shoot inside with their bow or shoot in their garage or something. So that's what drew me to it. But like you said, like once you start, it's okay, well, I need to get this sight, or I want to get a little bit better at this, or okay, I could change this and that'll make me better here, or I need to work on this, and like different things that you have to pay attention to because it is a process to shoot a bow. I mean, if you're not doing the same thing every single time, it's not going to work right. If you barely cant your hand this way, it's going to make that arrow fly a little bit different, and like you said, the further you shoot, the more those little tweaks and stuff affect the flight of that arrow. But it's been fun shooting. I've gotten to go to the Total Archery Challenge, going again this year and doing stuff like that. I feel like that's one thing that's really helped me out, shooting at different angles and stuff like that. But like you said, it's addicting. And once you find that little your addiction, I guess you could say, in hunting, it's kind of fun chasing that trail and finding the next one pretty much, because that's all you're gonna do.
Yeah, 100%.
That's awesome. I like I said, I wanted to talk to you about that, about the muzzleloader thing, because I didn't have an experience with it, and it's something one day I want to look at. And like you said, it's just the evolution. So putting it up there is something to look forward to. So I like I said, you do different things even with like your weapons you shoot with, but like it evolves in like your hunting life. But so you do some stuff with Texas Trophy Hunters too, right? You contribute to their on the food side.
I do.
So like working with those organizations like that, promoting conservation and stuff like that. I think that's something that, as a hunter, that kind of evolves with you as well. I get to volunteer with some different organizations, Stewards of the Wild, Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, but I'm on the Ranch and Wildlife Committee. So being able to, help with conservation and raise funds for different organizations, how involved are you in that?
I mean, pretty involved. It's for me, giving back to the hunting community in different ways is the most important thing that we could all do. And one of the things that I think is great is when you go to like a Texas Trophy Hunters event and you meet someone that's not even a hunter, right? And we were having this conversation last year at the show. There's a lot of people that go just, hey, my wife hunts or my husband hunts or what have you. And talking to people and spreading the word that hunting is more than just going out and shooting an animal. It's great for the land. There are a lot of, great stories with species making huge comebacks in this country. It's great for conservation. It's great. They go hand in hand with farmers and ranchers. Right. I mean, you can't have a property that's overpopulated with animals.
No,
because that's not good for the animal. It's not good for the rancher or the farmer. And so I think just, being able to give back just by having conversations with folks. It's not about, always giving money and things like that, but supporting young hunters, supporting folks that don't have the, the access to lands and things like that. And just getting people out in the field and explaining, what it's all about and showing them, that there's a lot more there than just shooting an animal. I think that's something that we could all do better.
Definitely. And even like you said, there's other things you can do besides just give money. Cause I mean, Lord knows I'm not a rich man and I don't have that much money to give. I mean, I do when I can, but I'm much rather give like my time. I'd rather volunteer.
100%.
We do stuff for Houston, do stuff, like I said, for Stewards of the Wall. So right now I can give time. And if that's, working a clay shoot that we put on for 4-H and FFA kids, we did the archery contest this year too, and got to judge that and just see those kids, I was one of them. I shot in high school, and it's different looking back. It gives you more gratitude to the people that you did meet when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Cause like you said, that's my Saturday. Like I could be shooting my bow, but I'm here judging this and realizing that when you were a kid, there were people there that were doing that for you. So it's kind of cool to come back full circle and be able to do that
especially when you think about how many people are, have an interest in getting into the outdoors, but might not have grown up in a hunting family. I was fortunate to grow up in a hunting family where it's just a way of life, and that's what we did. But there's a lot of people that the interest is there, but they don't have someone to take them.
That's true.
And it's something that, it's super rewarding. And it's a lot of fun to do that. To take someone out hunting and fishing is what's better than that? Yeah.
Cause for me, I had family friends and my friends that I went to school with that took me hunting. No, my mom doesn't hunt. My dad didn't hunt. My grandpa did. But he passed away when I was 6 or 7. So I didn't get to go hunting with him. But like you said, I was lucky in the fact that I had people around me. And I grew up in Goliad, so it wasn't like we had deer in our garage. So I knew what it was, and I knew that it was something very important and something that we do. So it was easy for me when I did have those opportunities presented to be like, yes, I want to go. Yes, I want to learn, So, and like you said, a lot of people don't get that. They just, and then who knows if they are wanting to learn and then they're around people that don't, they could get a negative kind of connotation when they do try to bring up something about, hunting or going fishing or something like that.
And it's a controversial thing, right? It's not something. I think in this state there are plenty of places that it's widely accepted, but if you grew up where I grew up, you might not. It's not a conversation to be had with a lot of people.
Yeah, that's true. Even say in my own family, nobody in my family tells me no, you're not hunting or anything, but my aunts love it when I bring home meat and stuff and I cook for them, but they're just don't tell me where this, tell me what it is, but don't tell me, where it came from, I understand just, they're always the deer are cute and that kind of stuff, but that's how normal people grow up. But they never go hunting, but they definitely support me going because I bring them meat and stuff back.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. I know we're coming up on an hour here, and I don't want to keep you too long, but because we can save some stuff for a different podcast one day. But I'm glad I got you on, and we got to have this conversation. We finally got to, like I said, talk without just commenting on people's photos. Yeah, that's been the plan. That was a big pusher of us starting this podcast because we have different pages, we get to talk to different people, and on Instagram, but it's nice to be able to have a conversation with someone. And then we're always at some of the same events and stuff, but we're always moving around and working and doing different things. And we don't get the chance to just sit down and talk. And this was an avenue to make that happen. So that's, like I said, is a big pusher in us starting this podcast. And I'm glad I got you on.
Well, thanks for having me on. It was awesome.
Yeah. We're going to have to do it again. And like I said, we can work out going to get some videos done for you so you can stay in the action and we can still capture that, man. That'll be awesome.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, man. Well, thanks, Mike, for coming on.
Thanks, Brandon.